YouTube, happy Sunday, guys. Good morning. So, Iraq's made tremendous progress and strides meeting the central bank's requirements, okay, of achieving political stability and everything. And so now the news is going to be tremendously reduced, okay? We don't have all that news at this time. Now we have just more economic news coming out of Iraq. We study the news in great detail on Patreon. Okay, I'll put a link for my Patreon account, and just so you know, I've actually reduced the monthly fee by 50%, okay? And it's going to remain that way. So again, I've reduced the cost of Patreon by 50%. If you like what I do and we can help you out, please consider joining and signing up. So here's some of the news for today. The formation of the Sudanese government pushes the Iraqis to demand a decrease in the exchange rate of the dollar. What they're talking here, because you got to know the source of the article. This is coming from the government slash political blocks, okay? What they're saying is they want the exchange rate reduced back to $1,200, okay, before it devalued in December of 2020, okay, to make the economy and to reduce the recession, okay, to lower the recession and make goods and services more affordable for the citizens. There's a key message in this article here, though, okay? It says right here in red, economic observers believe that decreasing the dollar exchange rate, a project that will not succeed because the change in the exchange rate is originally part of the reform program of the central bank. That's very critical and important to know and understand. It says the change in the exchange rate is part of the reform program. Okay? So it's important to know that literally what they're telling you here is that the next reform step is the rate change. Okay? Or they're telling you they have to change the rate to be able to implement the reforms. That's why the reforms have been drafted and created and approved for 2 years since October of 2020, and they have not been implemented at this time because they require the currency to be tradable and recognized. Okay? This next article right here, it's telling you that if we look at the middle green highlight, it says the necessary reforms of the financial policy and providing the requirements of the comprehensive development of the national economy, especially in light of the current economic conditions. The most important priorities of the new government and the ministry is to provide the draft federal budget for the year of 23. So what they're telling you there, they mention reforms and 23 budget together. What they're telling you is that the reforms are going to be implemented, okay, and brought forward during the 23 budget period, okay? We do on Patreon, we discuss this in much deeper levels, okay? This is another article telling you it's talking about getting the 23 budget approved, but it tells you, it says the next budget should be a budget of services. That means a budget of reforms, because the services come from the reforms. So again, they're telling you through this article that the 23 budget is married to the reforms, or the reforms are married to the 23 budget period. Okay? Maliki's coalition calls on the Sudanese to take revolutionary measures and present the budget as soon as possible. So again, Abdul Qadar said in a televised statement, the Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani should take revolutionary serious positions to face challenges addressing the deteriorating conditions in Iraq as soon as possible. The only way to address the deteriorating conditions, again, guys, is to implement those reforms, provide social services, okay, for the citizens, along with adjusting the exchange rate so that the recession and inflation comes down. Okay, the Prime Minister is required to send the budget to Parliament quickly, and the political blocs must leave the quota in the budget. Okay, the Sudanese government is determined to reform. So again, they're putting a big emphasis on the reforms. Okay, it says the Sadaquin parliamentary bloc confirmed on Sunday the intention of the new government headed by Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani to carry out radical reform revolution to avoid corruption and the lapse of the previous caretaker government. Comprehensive reform and evaluation of what was corrupted by the previous caretaker government headed by Mustafa Kademi. So again, just putting an emphasis on reform, showing you how they're critical now. And then this is just an article, it's a generic article that they talk about amending, or really, actually writing a new election law, okay? Bringing forward a new election law and get it approved. And you guys know they started approving laws, quite a few laws, earlier at the beginning of October, okay? And those laws were critical. We've already covered on Patreon the importance of those laws, what those laws are for, the significance of them. Right here it says we are proceeding with the local elections with the need to amend its law and reform the commission. There is a tendency to hold elections or provincial councils as determined by the new government led by Mohammed Shia al-Sudani as it is hoped. They will be held in October or 2nd of next year. So in this article, they're just telling you they need to amend the election law. The previous article said a new election law. Either way, doesn't matter. And here they're telling you that they're going to hold local elections in October of next year, okay? And the reason why Sauter and his demonstrators are not acting out is because they reached an agreement. That's why the demonstrators have not come forward, okay? And they haven't started acting up again, okay? And Sauter hasn't acted out either because, again, an agreement was reached. But as you guys see, there's very critical, very important tidbits, like how these articles right here are show you that the reforms are part of the 23 budget period. That's critical. Okay, that's very important to understand all the inner workings of that so that you can understand when Iraq possibly plans to revalue the currency during, what period of time, what year. Okay? And here's another one right here. Just that first one is real critical when they told you that the change in the exchange rate is originally part of the reform program. Okay, that's critical to understand. So the next reform step is the rate change. This is the type of news we cover daily. We look at the news for over an hour a day, every day. On Patreon, we covered in great detail. We dive in at a very deep analytical level to help you understand all the inner workings of all this fun economic information. If you'd like to join us, I'll put a link below the video for you. You guys are the best. Take care and have a great, amazing Sunday.